Alpine may have a great car, but how is that going to benefit them? Several specialists and journalists in the category are saying that the Alpine team has one of the best cars on the 2026 grid. With this outlook, we could see Franco Colapinto or even Pierre Gasly on the podium or even winning them. Hello, I'm Matias Ocampo. In this video section, we're making for Falso Nueve Television with Falso Nueve Television. Greetings to Mr. Nacho Costasar and Mr. Lucas de Micheli. What do you think, guys? Alpine, could they surprise us? Could they be a possibility? Who says Aston Martin, like in the year 2022-2023? Or do you see them further down the grid? First, greetings, Mr. Costasar.
Good morning. How are you, Mr. Matias Ocampo? It's a pleasure. Honestly, it seems so. At this point, being late January, we're in a situation that's complicated to define because it's really not easy to determine. The teams haven't officially done the testing yet. They've only just presented the cars. And the truth is that today, until we see them running at Albert Park, honestly, it seems very complicated. It seems very complex. I would say yes. It's true that it's going to be something different with a Mercedes engine instead of a Renault engine, considering the difference. But well, the situation is still being resolved, not about the regulations for the Mercedes engine. And all the problems so far with the Federación Internacional del Automóvil, it seems to me that it's still a bit premature. Yes, at least there's a bit more expectation than what happened last year. Because honestly, and seeing what happened in 2025, it couldn't have gotten any lower. So, in that sense, it still seems very premature to me, but well, from now on, it's time to grow and minimal enthusiasm, at least on Gasly's part. Some things also from Colapinto, who has been talking these days as well, but there is some enthusiasm, right, regarding at least what was done for 2025, right?
Yes, of course. And obviously, it would be nice to have some hint of what that car could be like, especially with Colapinto's statements. Not taking it to the national level, of course, because we have that hope of why not. The car could help him, it could benefit the Argentine kid for this upcoming season. Lucas de Micheli, I greet you as well, and I'd like to hear your opinion.
Yes, Mati, dear Nacho, how are you? Yes, let's see. Whenever there's a change in regulations, that doubt always comes up about which teams will end up surprising or which teams will end up on top, when before they were in the lower positions. Alpine comes into 2026 with everything to win, in the sense that, as Nacho said, it can't get any worse, and I experienced that myself. They can't do any worse because you can't finish lower than last. And they're coming in very well prepared, unlike other teams. In fact, they had the advantage, for example, that since they had the engine, Mercedes didn't have to worry about engine development, so they could focus most of their efforts elsewhere, and that's something Alpine's own sources have also mentioned. They've put a lot of effort into having an aggressive aerodynamics package, and they're going to have a big advantage over the other teams in that area. In the development for next year, and also the use of the wind tunnel, which is very important for aerodynamic development. Look, nobody expects Alpine to show up tomorrow and be a title contender, not at all. But they should at least aim to lead the midfield or fight for that leadership in the midfield. It seems to me, considering all this development time they've had, above all. That's why, because, as we say, it's a team that's been doing really badly. They're coming off a terrible year, a terrible car, a terrible engine, but they have potential. I think they have two relatively strong drivers, a Franco Colapinto, who showed himself to be solid, especially at the end of, and a Pierre Gasly, who proved he was up to the task when the team needed him, at least for most of the championship. In fact, he scored the points for the team last year, and I think that at the very least, Edson's team has to aim to fight for that lead in the midfield.
Yes, of course, I think so too, but I don't know if I see them that high up. I see them more like a Williams, like they were in the 2020-2025 season when they finished 5th in the Constructors' Championship, which even allowed Carlos Sainz to reach the podium several times. So I think I see it more that way. I don't know if I see it as a victory, maybe a podium, but I don't know about winning. I see it as a bit more difficult considering there are much stronger teams this season. I see Red Bull more, I see Mercedes more, but Alpine could maybe be the surprise perhaps, but that's about it too. Nacho, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Look, let's see. Regarding this, I'll go back a bit to what I said at the beginning. I think it's too soon, not just because of, well, let's not even talk about the podium. Let's not think about Alpine either. Throughout 2020 2025, there was a huge reduction in terms of staff numbers. Today, the difference is huge. And on top of that, they've also had a significant loss of staff from 2020 2025 until now. In other words, the fact that they lost places in the Constructors' Championship made them lose a lot of money. So we also have to take into account where Alpine is starting from to tackle this 2026 because let's see, Alpine 2, it's true now they're obviously going to have an engine with much more potential, but even so, we still don't know exactly how it's going to perform, but that's what people have been saying. More, isn't there some issue with the Federación Internacional del Automóvil and this whole discussion about the Mercedes engine? But the important thing is this. The other teams also had their preparation time and we still haven't even seen them. The other day they were just out on the track, but not even that. It's a car that's completely unrelated to what's going to happen from then on. Let's not even talk about Albert Park, no, but in Bahrain, I mean, we're basically still at square one and we still don't really know what's going to end up happening. But I don't think we need to add that context to Pin. It has few people, it's had a small budget, it's lost money, and we'll have to see from here on out how he can handle it. Let's keep in mind that we'll also be seeing the first indications of what a car can be, obviously when the championship starts. But also, it's the very first version of a car with new regulations. So, from that point on, we'll have to see what happens or how things develop in terms of improvements, which is something Alpine wasn't able to do throughout last year.
Lucas, any final thoughts?
Yes, just one last thing. I agree that they're not going to fight, or I don't see them fighting for victories, that's for sure. But like you said, for me, they need to look like this year's Williams in the sense that we have to see how many teams are still in the top zone. That's also a point because there are years when there are two teams, just one team, or there are years when there are four. Like last year, what if you counted Ferrari in the top zone? But well, I think so. Fifth place should at least be something they're fighting for, at the very least, to say that all this time was worth it, right? Having written off the whole last season.
We'll wrap up this video here then. I want to thank Mr. Nacho Costazar and Lucas De Micheli for joining me this time. Don't forget to leave a like, don't forget to leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, the 2026 season starts on March 8th at the Albert Park Circuit in Melbourne, Australia. And Falso 9 Television will be there with Falso 9 Television. Greetings to everyone. See you next time.